Welcome to the E-commerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top founders and experts in the e-commerce industry and take an in-depth look at the struggles and successes in growing e-commerce brands profitably.
Hey guys, Josh Chin here. I'm the host of the E-commerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top experts in the e-com industry and we go behind the scenes of the struggles and successes of growing a brand. Now, this episode is brought to you by Chronos.agency. Now, if you are a direct-to-consumer e-com brand that is ready for next-level growth and to unlock the optimal customer lifetime value through email marketing, Chronos is your company. We have helped hundreds of brands get over $70 million in returns from email alone, and our clients get an average of 3,500% ROI from our efforts. We've worked with brands like Truly Beauty, The Udi, Elias Skin, and many more. And for some reason, GQ, I've said this many times, but beauty brands and apparel brands are just attracted to us. There's nothing to do with my fashion sense, obviously. But if anyone is interested, the next step is just to email us at sales@chronos.agency, sales@chronos.agency. You can also go to chronos.agency to learn more. And today's guest is someone really, really interesting. He has an amazing background and he's doing some amazing work with e-com brands from all around the world. GQ Fu is the co-founder and CEO of LTVplus. GQ helps increase the customer lifetime value of e-com brands by providing omnichannel customer support outsourcing and failed payment recovery services in any time zone and any language. Now, he has extensive experience in running and managing remote teams, with LTVplus being 100% remote customer service outsourcing company that is spread out all across the world. GQ, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh. This is it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Yeah. If you're a fashion brand or beauty brand looking for help, Chronos Agency definitely is the agency to go to. We're very happy being partners at Chronos Agency.
Appreciate that, man. And we were just talking about your background before coming onto the show. Prior to LTVplus and building these amazing businesses in the e-com space, you were in the music industry for over 10 years. Tell me more about that and how has that experience shaped your current venture in entrepreneurship?
Sure. So yeah, not a lot of people actually know that about me because it seems like if you go on my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that it just starts from 2015 or 2016. Like I'm a late bloomer, right? So a late bloomer, yeah. So I was based in Singapore at the time. Did audio post production for about I think 2 to 3 years. Did some music composition as well, and then moved on to music performance and songwriting for a good another 3 to 4 years. So yeah, kind of under 10 years, I'd say. But what was really interesting for me was, when you're working as a musician and doing your own productions and compositions, it kind of is entrepreneurship anyway. It's just that I never knew it. It's just like, because you're looking off, you're working with different people. We even started like a small production crew just to, produce pop songs or whatever. We just wanted to go after the work with labels, the songwriting. So that kind of helped me understand what it would take, to run your own business, right? And so this was like from a solopreneur level or like a small agency setup, if you will. Then, got really inspired when I wanted to do more in the world. I figured like I want to leave like a better impact instead of just music. Music is great, but like, I want to do something more, I guess, visible. So then I decided to, join a startup in Singapore back then. And this was in a tech company as a customer success manager. And that's where essentially the entire customer service, customer success journey began. And the thing is that when you work with clients or other musicians, there is that customer service aspect to it, just not necessarily framed in SaaS or e-commerce, right? And so started from there, did about 2 years or so before we ventured out to build our own businesses. And today we have LTVplus. And I'd say the skills and the I guess the networking involved and the managing yourself, managing your time, how do you delegate things over time? These are things that I think I could bring over from my ex-musician's life, if you will, and bring it over here combined with things that I picked up along the way. Yeah.
Is that still part of your identity? Do you still consider yourself a musician?
Wow. If I were to say for the past 3 years, while focused on LTV plus and a bit of TaskDrive, I'd say yeah, like always a musician at heart. I think you never really lose it, but it's just a matter of how much time do you practice, how much time do you spend on your craft, right? Like as a musician, you typically spend 8, 10 hours writing music, playing your instrument, practicing, which is the same as an entrepreneurship, right? You're constantly
Yeah,
hustling every day, prospecting, refining your organization. So it's the same concept, but just different application, right? So I would say that because I'm not spending so much time on it now, it's become more of a hobby, more of a thing to love versus something that you're working. It's not so much of work now, but more of a hobby, if you will. Yeah.
got it. That makes sense. And I think that experience carrying it forward into what you're building today with LTV Plus, it's still about people, isn't it? I think that I mean the way that you carry yourself and the way that you treat your clients and your brands, I see that you care a lot, and that's very evident from all the times I've spoken to you. Tell me more about how LTV Plus brings that. We talked a little bit about turning customer service into a profit center. I think that concept is incredibly powerful. I love that idea. Tell me how LTV Plus plays a part in doing that.
Sure. So it's about reframing, like some brands, and I think this is a gradual shift in mindset, but people always view customer support or customer service as a cost center, right? Like, oh, you have to pay for customer service to make people happy. Some brands may not necessarily understand that this goes a long way, but I think there is that shift in the industry right now, especially more so ever since last year. So the way when we work with our clients is, first of all, we want to understand, what opportunities are there to engage shoppers, right? When we talk about customer service. So you have a lot of channels now, and you want to meet your customers where they are, right? So, for example, if they're very frequent on Facebook or on Instagram, that's kind of where you want to go after them. If they're more active on email, or even phone calls, depending on your demographics, that's kind of where you want to better engage them. So, for example, we first look at what are those opportunities to engage people, right? It could be on their website where we're talking about live chat, for example. And so, one thing that we commonly like to say or we like to share with people is, have you considered live chat? And if so, how are you tracking, shoppers on your site before you engage with them? So, for example, if someone were to shop for I don't know, like we can talk about fashion. If someone's going out there to shop a pair of jeans, and maybe they also sell like belts and other accessories that go with the jeans. If you were to track someone going on your site, browsing a couple of what do you call that? A couple of lines, just figuring out what pair of jeans they want to purchase. And that's kind of where our check could come up and say, hey, Josh, I noticed that you were checking out, this pair of jeans. Like, did you need any help, with sizing or whatever? And so that's kind of like ideally non-invasive, because you have to test this as well. Because some brands may not, like some demographics may not like, like a pop-up chat. They just may not like that. But however, if they do, it's nice to be a front of mind, and so people can get that experience and kind of put those questions out there, and then you engage with them that way, and you can recommend them the products that they're actually looking for. So if they're actually looking for a pair of jeans, but they're missing something, if they were to get that would help them actually be more happy with their purchase versus trying to sell them a whole bunch of stuff that they may not necessarily need. And so that leaves a long lasting impression. And we're very big on CLTV, right? So if you leave a lasting impression on the customer that they want to come back, that they want to talk more about your brand, that's where you kind of, every single interaction that you have is where it's a chance for you to create an evangelist for your brand, right? So that's just one of the many examples. So, we figure out engagement opportunities. We figure out, in the post sale aspect, so, but that's kind of more on the e-commerce brand side. How does the post sales experience work, right? How is it like, right? In terms of shipping, in terms of, the kind of email marketing that they're getting, what kinds of discounts or VIP loyalty programs that they have. So that's probably, something separate. But outside of that, besides engagement, we also talk about things like cart abandonment recovery, where but previously you lose these sales, like if you didn't have like any simple, let's say, email marketing software in place, or text marketing software, right, or SMS marketing. And so now with a variety of tools, and in fact, there's so many on the market right now that you could use to automate and pick up shoppers who, they might have dropped off the cart because they had to attend to something. Maybe they just weren't sure. And even a simple like text message where it's like, hey, hey, Josh, I saw that you were shopping for these items in your cart. Let me know if you'd like me to check if I could get a discount for you, if they're a new customer, right? And that's like a really, we've seen some clients try that out and it works really well. It starts the conversation. It's something as simple as like a 5, 10, maybe sometimes 20% discount for the initial purchase. But then, previously you weren't even converting these guys because they left, right? Now you have that ability to, right? And so that's something that we talk about as well. And we work with, obviously an agency partner like chronos.agency to figure out, how does email marketing work for that? How do they recover these abandoned carts? And then outside of that, from the customer service standpoint, it's really advising and figuring out, once people reply you, besides the automation piece, how can the customer service team engage with them to actually convert that sale, and ideally tweak the cart so that all you have to do is just give them a link and they can just pay and go. So frictionless experience, right? So we talked about engagement, we talked about recovery, and that also applies to failed payment recovery for those of you who run subscriptions-based e-commerce businesses, right? So we're talking about involuntary churn. Maybe the credit card just got declined. There weren't enough funds, So these are things where you can just send a nice reminder or just to let people know, because sometimes emails may not necessarily be the best in that case. If it might, if for whatever reason it went to some other folder or spam, and then you have text messaging to kind of kick in, and that kind of helps. Or if you're getting a direct email from someone, so that way it kind of cuts through the noise. But those are just some aspects. I think I've talked quite a bit here, so I'm just gonna.
That's right good. I took down a bunch of notes, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into what you've just said. And I'm paraphrasing here because I was just scribbling really quickly. You mentioned that every stage of your customer's journey is an opportunity to create a brand evangelist.
Yes.
Did I paraphrase that right? So I think that's incredibly accurate, and I think everyone can draw from a personal example of how good an experience or bad an experience they've had with an e-com brand online and shopping online, and how that reflects their impression on the brand. Most recently, I was actually browsing through Crocs. Okay, Crocs, cool. Yeah, they're so ugly but so comfortable, and it's coming back. It's a trend now for some reason. But yeah, so I was browsing through Crocs, and the discount code that was given to me via email wasn't working anymore. For some reason, it was like a 20% off code. I was basically at the checkout page. I was ready to key in my credit card details and make a payment, but I couldn't use my discount code, and it was given to me. I would have bought anyways without a discount, but since that was given to me and it wasn't working, I was just gonna wait. So I basically sent a reply to email to their support team, and I honestly haven't heard from them since. I've actually sent 2 emails since then.
Oh, wow.
What do you think is that loss of sales as a result of events like this? Is that significant? And do you have like some kind of a quantification or measurement around that?
Well, that is actually a really great question. I can't recall any stats offhand, but I would think that is, that in itself, like you've already mentioned the experience yourself, like how would that work? If you're sending out promos that don't work, that's gonna ruin the experience. Like, cause like you said, there's that expectation that I'm gonna get this, what do you call it? I'm gonna get this discount, but now I don't. That automatically sets a different level for me, or sets a different expectation, right? Like, hey, I don't actually want to buy that anymore, because you didn't keep your promise as a brand in a way, right? In that aspect. What could be interesting here, actually, I wanted to expand on that, was for some reason, some brands don't like, when they send out such marketing emails, these emails either go unanswered, like you mentioned, or for some strange reason, some people use no replies, which is like really weird. Like, I have seen like just a few. It's not very common, but it does happen. And that is like the best opportunity for you to engage with that person right there and then, someone who's ready to purchase from you. And so, one of the things that we talked about was omnichannel customer support, right? And so, if you're working with, you're operating out of different help desks that enable you to, channel that back, your marketing team does not have to be the one to respond. And that's where customer service can come in, so that they can actually pick up on that and say, hey, you know what? I saw that you have your cart there. Sorry that the code's not working, but you know what? I've already gone ahead and applied that 20% for you. Please use that to purchase it. Now, if you had experienced that, would that be something that would help you change your mind?
Bam, immediate conversion, and I'm a customer.
There you go. There you go.
That's the difference. Amazing. And you talked a little bit about reducing friction, and failed payments. That's a friction as well, but it isn't it isn't necessarily the fault of the brand or the business in the first place. It's kind of just a consumer having a bad credit card, or just bounced purchase for whatever reason. How do you think about that approach, in terms of, from a brand's perspective, why should they even care about getting that recovered in the first place?
Sure. So this is, I guess, like, like when we typically think about recovery, we think about cart abandonment, and so we know that there's low hanging fruits that we could easily get back, and increase your sales as a result. It's the same with failed payments as well. Now, this depends on, of course, two things: whether it's involuntary or voluntary churn. So if we talk about involuntary, someone that might have forgotten about this, and they're not necessarily getting the notification that, hey, this your payment didn't go through, and your subscription box is due like whenever, and like if like sometimes it gets automatically canceled because, or paused because they don't get paid. But I, as a customer, may be expecting that, but I never got that email. Somehow it might have slipped out of my inbox. I have a million emails in my inbox, or went to spam, or whatever. And so if you're able to cut through that noise, be it through text, be it through maybe a phone call, even some customers do appreciate that, and brands do kind of build that out. um, Not only would my experience be better, like be good, like I would know that, okay, cool, that this like my subscription box is going to come on time. But for the brand, it might make sense as well, because then you would be recovering otherwise lost revenue for 1 or 2 months, and that can make a big difference as a subscriptions based business, because your revenue would be affected, and like how much money, what's your cash flow going to be like, and like if you were to have, just imagine, like out of however much you're making now, and you're experiencing 20% of failed payments, 30%, 50%. Okay, well, 50% is a little bit too much, so let's just say 10% even, or 20%, and you recover even 50% of that. That's a lot. That's a lot that comes back to you, right?
It's very meaningful. And with that, I have a kind of, so it is something that we care for at Chronos as well. When we think about creating automations around recovery frameworks, from at the cart page, or at the product page, or even at the payment part, what's the difference, or rather, what's the added benefit in having a human behind that chat and that conversation, versus just an automation that's run on email or text, for instance?
Sure. So automation is really good to do at scale. And for those that automatically, well, automatic automation, for those that respond to automation well, and you're ready, so you'd be getting back a lot of revenue or recovered sales without the need of spending more, because you have that done through software. But then you still have those that kind of fall through the cracks, right? After repeated dunning emails, or repeated recovery emails, but people just don't get it. But then today, you were to get a person reaching out, like an actual like a name that you can put to the brand, like a face, even depending if like it's like Josh from Crocs, for example, right?
Yeah.
And so there, it kind of personalizes and humanizes the whole experience, and so you engage in that person, and there is still that I guess 50-50 view when it comes to chatbots or automation, right? You know that these emails are coming through, like it's a mass send email. But when you reply, and then you get someone who's actually talking to you at the end of it, that kind of builds that rapport with that brand. And your brand builds a rapport with your customer as a result. And so people are more inclined to engage, and they know that they will, if they were to ever hit up customer service for Crocs, for example, they would not just like get to a dead end, but rather someone will respond to them and attend to them. And I think it makes a it helps the shopper understand that they're all equally important versus just like, hey, you're just someone that I'm sending mass marketing to. And when you have humans behind that, I think the really good part out of that is for them to understand what the situation is, because there are for the standard use cases, those are already taken care of by automation. But today, maybe someone wishes to purchase this, but they had some concerns or some questions that weren't necessarily answered. That's where a human steps in to clarify those and move on with the sale, right? Because otherwise, it would disappear.
Amazing, amazing. And I was thinking about just you mentioned the scalability aspect of recovery processes, and just customer service as a whole. Now, when we think about turning customer service into profit center, that's one thing. But when we have humans involved, especially when I think about the brands that we work with, they often have a very difficult time hiring the right people, putting them into right seats, and then training them up to be sufficiently adequate and proficient in customer service. How do you help in that process of scaling a customer service team for a brand that's fast growing?
Sure. So I think the one thing that we first look at is, well, we can take two scenarios, right? The first one that's easy to kind of measure is holiday seasons or Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Those are like automatics that you kind of set out there, and you do you do your best to project based on last year's performance. But like we've seen brands that have double or tripled their revenue in 1 year, right? Because last year was
Yeah.
obviously very different for a lot of brands. And so, when you have that kind of projection, you want to be able to scale that team up within that time frame, and you have a little bit of preparation beforehand. So what we do is we usually find out figure out with our clients, like, what does that look like? How many? First of all, what sort of automation and what sort of tools can you put in place so that ideally the agents do not have to take care of the very transactional inquiries, not because they're not interested in having that conversation, but it just doesn't make sense when you have more people come through the site on that for that period of time. Then once it's done, it's figuring out, okay, how many more team members are needed to come on. And I think brands are not always very keen to bring on part-timers, because it's not very easy to get like part-timers who come on for like for 2 weeks, a month, and then call it a day, right? Usually when you employ them, you have to take care of there's like the probation period, et cetera, et cetera. Part-timers are also not always easy to find. And so that's kind of where I guess as an outsourcing company, we are able to fill that gap because we already have people anyway. And so we're able to like say, hey, you know what, if you need 10 people tomorrow, we're able, well, within a week or tomorrow, we're able to, have those agents ready and to start training. So like an example here was there was a brand that we worked with, and I think we had a team of like 2 or 4 agents prior, and then during Shark Tank they went on Shark Tank, and the episode aired, and that was like they experienced like a massive increase in their traffic. And so we had to more or less scale the team up to like 10 plus agents, like pretty much within a week or less. And so we were able to, tackle that volume as a result. So, and again, they didn't need it all the way. After the 10 was done, after a few weeks, we dropped it back down to 2 or 4. And so that's where I guess it helps. And I guess we are a remote company. It helps a lot when we are able to tap into talents from all over the world, right? Because if you're very focused on recruitment in a certain area, that's good, but there are limitations, right? And so when we talked about converting customer service into a profit center, we think that outsourcing and hiring remote talents really plays a good part in that aspect, depending, of course, where the brand is based, because you'll be able to hire great quality people, and not necessarily having to fork out a lot in training, etc., because that's already taken care of by an outsourcing company where we have the departments to build the training programs, to take care of that for you. And so we can scale the team as quickly as needed because training is all taken care of by us, recruitment, etc., etc. And so as a brand, you'll be able to focus on scaling your brand. You'll be able to focus on, what's the brand strategy, what's your marketing strategy, right? And so one thing that's really interesting that we notice as well is there are a lot more e-commerce brands that are outsourcing a lot of their different departments because they want to focus mainly on the product and brand. Whereas for example, a brand will work with chronos.agency or LTVplus to take care of email marketing, to take care of customer service. And, because we are doing that at scale. And so we're able to share the expertise that we have with the brands, and so they are able to benefit from that.
That's amazing. And if you had one message that you can that you're able to send to basically all e-commerce brands all across the world, what would that message be?
The message would be, take a look at customer service today. Are you, this is a very easy to win channel for you to generate, not even just like more sales, it's one thing, but we're talking about the longevity of your shoppers, right? Take a look at your customer service. Take a look and see, are you getting back to customers in time? There are some customers where, your turnaround time or your response, your first response time can fall somewhere between 24 hours to 48 hours. That's automatically a big no-no, right? Because customers are waiting. They want to understand where their order is. They have a question. So take a look at customer service today. Understand, what are some of the gaps that you could easily fill either through, working with, maybe just implementing certain automations in place with the help desk that you have. Maybe consider bringing all your communication channels into one. So we create a true omni-channel customer experience that allows you to generate more sales and increase customer satisfaction.
Amazing. And if this was at the end of the year, right, like 31st December 2021, looking back at the year as a whole, what would uh, what would you have achieved at LTV Plus for you to say this was a great year?
For us to say that this was a great year.
Yeah.
Sure. So I would say that if when we're able to give more jobs to people, like 4x of what we have right now, I think that would be a huge achievement for us. Because when we started this business, David and I, the goal was to create as many jobs as possible in customer service. And I think customer service is it's a role where you can learn and pick up over time. And this is one of the ever-growing positions that you can look for people all over the world. And as long as you have internet, as long as you have the right technology, the right skill sets, and the right languages, customer service, you either already have it or you can also learn if you start off in a junior role. So we want to really spread the love of remote work everywhere. And so 4xing, 5xing what we have today would be awesome to know that we've done good work to give people more work. Yeah.
I love that. And last final question. What are some brands that you personally admire that you feel do a great job at customer success, and why? If you could kind of elaborate on that.
Sure. So if we think about e-commerce, let me just think here. Well, none of them come to mind. This is where I'm going to say, like, this is like kind of dropping up, but like I don't do a lot of shopping, which is like,
that's so
funny because like I run a customer service business in e-commerce, but I don't do a lot of shopping. Minimalism.
Frugal guy, got it.
Okay. Let me think here. But no, I would love to. You can cut that part out, but I love to talk about customer service and customer success. Let me see what's a good one here. Wow, it's been a while. What was the one that left the deepest impression on me? Wow, none of them are coming to mind. I don't know why. That's so strange.
Or you know what? We could talk about what are some of the current brands that you're working with that you feel are basically you help them bring customer success to customer service to a new level that really beats out all their competition in a very significant way.
Sure. So there was one where we recently actually published this case study on our site, and that is with Pink Lily, and it's been a real fantastic time working with them, from what I understood. So we were able to get, I think like what was really good here for us was when we worked with them, it was relatively easy and straightforward to get the training set up in place. We were able to staff the right amount of team members there, but also bringing together, what are the best practices? Because they're operating out of a certain help desk, and we were able to support that And because one of the things that we thrive on is to be experts in all the different help desks that we support, right? We're not just going to say, okay, like our favorite phrase to use is, we pretty much know most help desks on the market. If we don't, we will learn it and we'll make sure that we become great experts at that. And so we were able to bring together, all the different sets of, as we mentioned, a bit of automations in place, helping them bring the best customer service experience, not just through highly skilled agents that are obviously very involved with fashion, but also the other aspect of that was to ensure that we were utilizing technology to the best that we can every step of the way. And even till now, we're looking at optimizing it, right? So that they make the most out of customer service, and they can obviously, as a result, reduce their costs and also generate more profit as a result. And so I think that was really helpful. And when we were last year, when there was like the immense growth, especially I think in Q3, Q4 for most brands, we were able to tackle that with a scalable solution, which I think was really helpful in managing and making customers happy.
Gotcha. And this case study is listed on your site.
That is correct. Yeah, it's on the website.
And oh man, you're missing out the best part. You've generated over $500,000 in revenue with customer service.
Yeah.
for them, that should be what you start the statement with. That's a success, man. I mean, that's incredible. And if you're able to generate that much with a strong customer success team, that's happy customers. And I know for a fact that happy customers mean repeat purchases and a happier business, and ultimately a longer lasting one. Thank you so much for your time, GQ. That's our time. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yep. Same here, Josh. Thanks a lot for your time, and always glad to be on the podcast. Yeah. Always happy to have a chat.
And also before you go, if people are interested in contacting you or learning more about LTVplus, how should they reach out?
So you can reach out to me at gq@ltvplus.com, or feel free to add me out on LinkedIn. That's GQ Fu, and you pretty much be able to find me on LinkedIn there. So either email or LinkedIn. Definitely happy to have a chat. And I think the most important thing here is that if you have some questions about customer service, feel free to hit me up anyway. I just love discussing that anyway. Yeah.
And your shirt says, what does it say?
CX nerd.
CX nerd. There you go.
Hashtag CX nerd. That's right. Yeah.
GQ, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thanks for listening to the E-commerce Profits Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get notified of future episodes.